right, the chair of the Washington State Democratic Party is hopeless. Hopeless, I say. Let's get to it in our segment, Unbelievable. Boop. All right, I have detailed at length my Twitter beef with the chair of the Washington State Democratic Party, but it's really more than that. I have used this as an example of how the left in particular in Washington state tries to shut down any legitimate debate, disagreement, and argument by name calling and labeling. And they just hope that if they do that, then you'll get scared and you'll shut up. And I don't want you to shut up. I want you to push back. And so I want to be an example of what that looks like. And so just in case you guys weren't following the show earlier this week, the new chair of the Washington State Democratic Party, Shasti Conrad, she had come under criticism for sending out a tweet saying she wanted to get Democratic supermajorities in the state legislature in 2026 so she could, quote, clean up the state constitution. I don't want anybody cleaning up the state constitution. And I also don't like the idea of someone so power hungry. They want to consolidate power to such an extent that they can make changes to the constitution on the whims of a single political party. I just don't think that's particularly helpful. So I had done a segment criticizing that statement from her, in part because for a couple reasons. Her response to any criticism of the statement was, oh, far-right crazy people will criticize us. That's what they do. And I'm like, okay, you can name call, but I think it's legitimate to be concerned about one party consolidating that much power. And she also was in her Twitter comments just sort of changing the reason she said she wanted to clean up the Constitution. At first it was about voting rights, and then she was talking about abortion. So either she just really doesn't know what she wants to clean up, or she was just trying to figure out, okay, I sent this crazy tweet, so let me say it's about abortion, which is, in Washington state, most people are pro-choice, I would argue. And so she's like, that'll be politically popular and people won't push back. But anyway, so I sent out this not only segment criticizing what she said and pointing to the dangers of it, but I also she had responded to me saying, oh, Brandi's a far-right hater. This is what haters do. And I'm like, okay, list one policy position I hold that's far-right. Just one. Give me one concrete policy position you believe I hold that's far-right. And crickets from Shasti Conrad. And I asked her that not so much because I believe there's actually a policy position I hold that's far right, but because I want to know what her definition of far right is. And that would actually expose her far more than it would expose me, because I'm assuming she's going to say something that really isn't far right at all. But anyway, so after I had asked her, name one freaking thing I support that's far right, what did she do? Nicole, did you even count? It's like a 30-part tweet. Many, many parts to this tweet.
Oh, yeah, lots of parts.
So Shasti Conrad is now using me to fundraise for the Washington State Democratic Party. So she is now claiming that she's under attack as a brown woman by far-right wingers on the internet. And because of that, you should give the state Democratic Party money. It's all just very sad. So let's go through I cannot read you the whole thread. It's just too much. It's too much. So let's just go through a little bit of it. So she said, she started it with, and this tells you all you need to know. Hi, Shasti Conrad here. I'm the first Asian American woman to chair a major state party in the contiguous USA. I'm currently being attacked by the far right in Washington for championing democratic values. Make their attacks backfire. Chip in and support the Washington State Democratic Party. Oh, this is sad. I gotta feel bad for her. So first of all, I love that she leads with identitarianism, of course. Like, I'm the first Asian American woman to chair a major state party, and I'm currently being attacked by the far right. Okay, so you're making it sound like people are attacking you because of the color of your skin, which is absurd, of course, because I've articulated why I was legitimately criticizing her over something she said. But, of course, that's the easy thing to do. Play victim. Oh, I'm being attacked because of the color of my skin. Super lazy. And just kind of low IQ, if I'm being honest. Oh, now she's going to say I called her low IQ on a show called Undivided because of the color of her skin. And she says she's being attacked by the far right in Washington for championing democratic values. First of all, Washington really doesn't have a far right. There's a couple, but I'm certainly not on the far right. So again, she's just lying, and she's trying to get money out of it. So then she goes on, it's this whole long thread And then she says, of course, the far right will hate and fearmonger. Just look at some of the hateful messages that have come my way since right-wing commentator Brandi Kruse posted a video about my tweet a few days ago. And then she posts some of it, which isn't very bad or interesting, and some of it is like no-name people on Twitter being hateful. I refuse to absorb responsibility for everything someone tweets at you, Shasti Conrad. You're the chair of the state Democratic Party. You are a public figure, and this is a common tactic. I've seen it used by Seattle City Council members. I've seen it used by far-left bloggers, where they're like, oh, I said something dumb, and I said something worthy of criticism, and there was legitimate pushback, and so now I'm like, oh, people are attacking me, feel bad for me, I'm the victim. No, I don't think anybody should ever resort to personal, hateful messages. Although I did just call her low IQ. Maybe I should rethink that. Okay. I didn't call her low IQ. I said it's a low IQ way of debating.
Exactly.
Which it is a low IQ way of debating. But no, I'm not going to, this doesn't work on me. This shouldn't work on anybody. It's like, oh, we better back off because she says she's being attacked for the color of her skin. And she says that people are being mean to her on the Twitters now. So no, that's ridiculous. It's the laziest of lazy. And then she goes on to say of me, and then she likes to pretend she isn't far right. Girl, come on. Not to mention that she has hate mongers like Andy Ngo cheering her on, thinking she'll disavow. Personally, I'm not holding my breath. So she pulls up a tweet Andy Ngo sent to me in November of 2021. Andy Ngo covers Antifa. He's an independent journalist. And he's thanking me for my incredible journalism. So she had to, dig back into the 2021 as a way to paint me as far right to find a reply that Andy Ngo sent to one of my tweets in 2021. This is getting sad. This is interesting. Let's keep going, shall we? She goes on to say, commentators like Brandi Kruse serve one purpose, to sanitize and mainstream right-wing culture wars and grievance politics. That's why she made a whole video about a tweet of mine where I talk about the very good and democratic process of amending our state constitution. That's not what you said at all. You said, I want a supermajority in 2026 so I can clean up our state constitution. It was like one sentence. Nowhere in it did you offer a, quote, very good and democratic process of amending our state constitution. You didn't mention that at all. And then she goes, which to note has already been amended 108 times, but it's somehow a problem when I talk about doing it. No, it's a problem when you talk about doing it via supermajority, so doing it without any bipartisan support whatsoever. Yeah, you can amend the state constitution. You don't have to have supermajorities to do it. You have to have bipartisan agreement that there's something in the Constitution that exists that needs to be amended because either it's out of date or it's out of touch with where Washington state is. But you specifically want to make sure that Democrats can, quote, clean it up without any sort of ability of anyone else to dissent or push back. That's the difference. I'm sure you realize that, or maybe you don't, but it's incredibly disingenuous for you to say, well, it's already been amended 108 times. Yeah, you want to amend it without anybody dissenting. And then she says, Brandi Kruse was trying to make a scandal out of my having policy positions about two issues that Democrats really care about, democracy and abortion. The horror! I know it's October spooky season, but this is too much. No, I'm not trying to make a scandal out of you having policy positions. That's your job. You're the chair of the state Democratic Party. I am talking specifically about your desire, again, I don't know how many times I have to say it, about your desire to consolidate power so much so that you have supermajorities and can change anything that Democrats want about the state constitution. Like, I know that Democrats have certain policy preferences when it comes to voting access. I know that Democrats have certain policy preferences when it comes to abortion, which, by the way, Shasti Conrad, I'm sure you and I have the same view of abortion. I'm pro-choice up to fetal viability, unless, of course, you're pro-choice beyond fetal viability, which, why don't you say so? And we can have a conversation about that, because that would be a very extreme position. And then she says, anyway, as a brown woman in politics, for the love, this woman with her identity politics. Anyway, as a brown woman in politics, I've come to expect this sort of nonsense, but I don't accept it. If you're sick and tired of this type of right-wing divisiveness, will you make a donation to Washington Democrats today? Can I use this to my own? If you're sick and tired of this kind of divisiveness from the state Democratic Party, become a subscriber to the Undivided podcast for just $5 a month today at undividedpod.com. Can I use it in the same way? I'm going to put together a whole 15-tweet thread about how I'm being discriminated against because I'm white and the left, far left fringe is attacking me. Look at the mean things they've said to me on Twitter. So become a subscriber of my podcast for just $5 a month. And then, of course, it wouldn't be a left-wing thread from Shasti Conrad without using her favorite four-letter word, MAGA. With the rise of MAGA extremism in the United States, we have a moral responsibility to secure states like Oregon, California, and Washington as a strong blue wall in the West. Hold on a second. So first of all, I don't know if she's trying to tie me into MAGA. She probably doesn't know that I don't particularly like Donald Trump because she obviously doesn't watch the show. However, you're saying that you haven't secured states like Oregon, California, and Washington? There isn't one elected Republican in statewide office in any of those states. You have had a Democratic trifecta in Washington state for the last 8 years and 14 of the last 20 legislative sessions. You've had a governor in the governor's mansion for 40 years. What about that isn't a strong blue wall in the West? No, you are power hungry. You need more. You need a super majority so there's no room for anyone to disagree with your ideas. And again, this is someone who, may I remind you, when she calls me or any other reasonable people far right or right wing, keep in mind, she is further to the left than probably 99% of Washington voters. She supported a candidate who was so morally bankrupt, so deeply flawed, that even progressive Seattleites were like, oh, that woman's crazy. But no, Shasti Conrad supported Nicole Thomas Kennedy, who told police officers to go eat some COVID-laced SHIT, who celebrated arson, and she supported her because she is also that fringe. So, I mean, she can call reasonable, moderate Washingtonians far right or MAGA or whatever she wants, but truly she is outside the mainstream, even in a progressive blue state. And I'll just point out that she is so identity obsessed that in her Twitter bio, which you get just like one line to explain who you are and what you're all about, her line is first woman of color chair for Washington Dems. Former Obama and Bernie staffer, former chair of KC Dems. First woman of color chair. Is that what you live and breathe by? That some characteristic you can't even change, that you had no say in, that you were born with, is what absolutely, like, what qualifies you for the job, identifies who you are and everything that you are on this planet. It's very, very strange stuff. Very strange stuff indeed. Unbelievable, as we would say.